Hey everybody, it's Glidercat and it's time to play. Today I've got an early preview of an upcoming transit game called Sweet Transit. Now this game just popped on the scene a couple of months ago as I record this video. Sweet Transit is not yet available to play, not even in early access, but the developer has mentioned that he's currently working on a demo that he hopes to make available within the next couple of months. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for that. In the meantime, you can go into Steam today to wishlist and follow it and then keep up with the development of the game. I'm doing that. I plan to keep a close eye on Sweet Transit because as you'll see in this video, even at this very early stage, it's looking pretty good to me. Now, the release date for the game is currently shown in Steam as just autumn, so sometime later this year, hopefully before next year, this year being 2021, in case you're watching this months and months after it's posted. Now, in this preview video, I'll be showing a few video clips and a whole bunch of screenshots. Just keep in mind that we're taking a very early look at the game, and any or all of what you see could change significantly before the game is actually released. Now, I started following Sweet Transit back in April 2021. And I only recently reached out to the developer because I wanted to get this video together and was hoping that I could get my hands on a playable version of the game. I mentioned that already that it's not playable yet. So while there wasn't a version of Sweet Transit available at the time of this recording that I could try out, the developer did send me some exclusive gameplay footage. I'm told that I'm the only one that has it. And I'm going to share that with you in this video. So my thanks goes out to the developer for that. I'm super interested in this game. Like I said, I've been following it for a couple months now and very, very excited to share the content with you today. Now, I'll also put some links in the description to the game's website and the Steam store page. The developer has been posting regular devlogs about Sweet Transit. And in this early preview video, I'm going to be paraphrasing a lot of what he's posted. And those devlogs, you can find them on the Steam store page. So I encourage you to check that out. I think he's been posting them just about every 2 weeks. But yeah, definitely check it out. I'm sure there'll be a new one shortly after this video posts with even more information about the game. So I'll be checking that out. And I can't show you the game's official trailer because there isn't one just yet. Now, as we look over some of the images and videos I do have, let's learn more about the game. So the game's description goes something like this. Sweet Transit is a unique city builder with trains as the only means to survive and expand. Plan and design villages and cities, produce goods within farms and factories to grow and provide for your people, and finally, bring everything together with trains in your ever-growing colony. Then there's also some fun backstory that you can read on Steam. In fact, let me just read that because it's a little tongue-in-cheek, and I think it's kind of funny and kind of cool, actually. So here it goes. It says, Sweet Transit takes place in a strange world wherein trains dominate the transportation industry. However, some radical citizens begin calling for cars and other more inefficient innovations. You play as head of government-financed settlers and are tasked with proving once and for all that trains are the final stage in the evolution of transport. You must thereby build a self-sufficient colony with trains as the only means of transportation. So that's a little backstory. It's pretty awesome in my opinion, and sort of hints at the developer's sense of humor, saying you're setting out to prove that trains are the only way to go. We don't need cars. We don't need anything else. Trains is everything, or are everything. So pretty cool, I think. Now, in Sweet Transit, you're obviously going to be building trains and railroads, but you're also going to be building a colony. That means villages to attract new people. And then again, we just talked about building farms and factories to take care of those people. And then you're going to use trains and railroads to transport both people and products. And again, for full disclosure, I'm just paraphrasing some of the developer's own words here, so keep that in mind. Now, when researching new games, I always try to find out what makes a game unique. There's plenty of transit games out there, both old and new, where you pretty much do the same things that I just described. You kind of support a town, place factories, and obviously lay down railroads and train routes and things. But for Sweet Transit, though, I think think I may have found something that helps make it a little different from other transit games out there, and it has to do with the warehouse building in the game. And here we're looking at a few images of it right now. The warehouse building is at the center of it all. And according to the developer, it will be the first structure that you build in the game. The warehouse can be expanded and multiple stations can be connected to it, but there is a catch. And you may have already picked up on it the way I'm referring to the warehouse building. So, as you might have guessed, there can only be one. And this will have huge implications on how you play the game. That one restriction will present a whole set of challenges for you as you seek to design and optimize the rail network for your growing cities and ensure that all necessary goods are being delivered efficiently. So, for example, wood is one of the building materials in the game, and you're going to need that for expansion of your villages and then also upkeep of them. And I think some of the other factory buildings as well have upkeep that requires wood. I could be wrong there. So producing wood in the sawmill is not enough, however. That wood needs to be transferred to the warehouse before it can be used. Now think about that for a minute. You've only got one warehouse. Your towns are getting bigger and bigger. Your rail network is getting bigger and bigger, but you've got a single warehouse that all of this material needs to run through. So that means there's going to be a lot of traffic heading towards your one single warehouse, and you need to lay out, your railroad and your train and your schedules and your routes, so that all of this can be delivered and you can expand, and that doesn't become the bottleneck that it just inherently is going to be. Try to minimize that being a bottleneck as best you can. And here we can see an image of the sawmill itself. And here's a short clip of a train leaving a train station near the warehouse after dropping off a load of wood and then heading back to yet another train station to go pick up more wood from a nearby sawmill and go bring it back. So I may play that one a couple times. You can see that train there picking up wood. Now, the example the developer gives has to do with building materials needing to travel through the warehouse before they're used. So initially, given the example from the developer about the building materials and wood specifically needing to run through the warehouse, I kind of assumed that all the products in the game would need to run through the warehouse. So I reached out to the developer to find out. So here's what he said. Warehouse only stores goods that are needed for building: wood, stone, and bricks. Also, fuel is stored in the warehouse as well. So for example, coal is used to fill up the coal locomotives on build. And then he said, of course, you can mod it so that everything can be stored there. So that's good to hear that eventually we'll have the ability to use mods with Sweet Transit. That's always a huge plus. Then he goes on to say other goods such as cotton and food are used only in villages and cities. He said they act similar to Anno, if you're familiar with that game. Goods are distributed to the inhabitants, and then those households who have them get some bonuses. So, for example, cotton is brought to the city where clothing shops make clothes from it. Those clothes then get distributed, and household residents pay more taxes and have more people move in. So that all makes cool sense to me. And then it says maybe you want a village that produces clothing only. So you might surround that village with cotton farms, and then all the clothes that are produced in that village can get exported to other cities as well. Anyway, so that kind of clears it up. The warehouse, pretty central building in the game, and all of your building materials need to be routed through it. Not everything, but just the wood, the stone, and the bricks. And then he mentioned that it also stores coal as well. And the developer mentions in the game description that choosing a suitable place for where you build that warehouse is a critical decision in the game. Now, in addition to the challenge of having only a single warehouse, the map itself is going to provide some additional challenges for it. Here are a few of the various map images I have from the game, and we can get a little more feel from the various video clips too that I'm showing you. I've only got a few images here of the map. Now, Sweet Transit's main game mode is going to be a sandbox mode, and it's going to have random map generation as a part of that. The maps will range from very small to very large, and I'm guessing that the limitation of having a single warehouse, I know I keep hammering on that point, But I think that having a single warehouse may just constrain how big you're going to be able to expand your transit operations. So I don't think at the largest map setting, and I can't remember what the specifics were, but I think even the developer mentioned you're going to be hard pressed to run out of space on that large map. Now, the maps aren't flat, so they consist of buildable land, right? Kind of flat areas surrounded by water and mountains, which together present their own sort of puzzle as you work out where the best places to build are. So there's mountains, there's rocky terrain that I'm assuming you can't build track over. So you're going to have to squeeze your track between mountains in certain places. Um, and that's going to present a challenge for you. The game, it will also have different biomes, and each biome may limit the types of resources that are available to you and what you can build there. Now, I don't think I have any pictures of the different biomes to show you, and there's not a whole lot of information about them. And I'm not sure if each map will comprise of a single biome or if you can have multiple biomes within a single map. We're just going to have to wait and see on that. So I'm kind of assuming it's the latter, that you can have like a large map with multiple biomes, but that's really just a guess on my part. Again, we're gonna have to wait and see. Now, the developer does state that each tile within the map will have resources, fertility, and height values, which will greatly influence where you want to place your villages. So again, I think the height values is just like the elevation. So it sounds like there's going to be plenty of challenges in the game between the map and the terrain, along with, again, I'm going to mention it, the single warehouse that you have to work with. And there's probably some more challenges that I just haven't learned about yet, too. Now, this is probably a good place to mention that the developer has said Sweet Transit is not intended to be a hardcore game with a strict way to play. It's not like entirely a puzzle where you just got to find the one way to win. So that's not the intention. There's going to be freedom to try all kinds of different things, and you can be successful with more than one strategy. But he does mention that each system in the game is specifically designed to make sure that your gears are turning. So you're not going to be able to just kind of sleep your way through this one. All right, the game is about trains and stations, so let's take a more detailed look at those. What we're looking at now is what I believe to be the train building screen. And as you might expect, trains are built at a train depot. You can see to the right in this image that there is a single engine type and a few different wagon or boxcar types to choose from, including one for transporting passengers. I think I mentioned that's part of the game as well. You'll be moving product and passengers. Now, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that there may be more of these boxcars and engines to choose from as the game is further developed. I'd be very surprised if you just had, 4 things to choose from. So on the left side at the top, you can see a picture of the train as it's being built. So you can kind of visualize the train being assembled from those different engines and cars. And there's a few things worth noting here. Now, if you look closely, you might notice that there are 3 engines in the train that's currently being built on the screen, and 2 of them are pointing to the left and 1 is pointing to the right. So there's a reason for this, and there's an implication here. In Sweet Transit, trains cannot magically flip around. You don't have that option. So if you need your train to go in reverse, then you need to make sure that you add some power at the back, as the developer says, meaning you're going to need engines facing each direction, forward and backwards. And that's what's shown here in the drawing with the engines facing in different directions. Now, also, if you look at some of the specification information just below that picture of the train, you can see data for what's called front power and back power. And you can quickly see that each engine is providing 800 horsepower in this case. There's 2 engines facing forward, so it's showing 1,600 horsepower in that direction. And then you got 1 engine facing backward for 800 horsepower going backwards. So all pretty obvious once you look at that image there. And then here's a clip of a train actually reversing among some farm fields. So that all looks pretty cool. Now, the game does let you have one-way trains, and they may turn out to actually be more efficient. You'll just need to make sure that your tracks are laid out in a way that trains won't need to back up. So that's another option. You can go with one-way trains. Now, it's foreseeable down the road. The developer could change his mind and add a setting where you can flip trains, but that's not in the current plans. At least nothing that I've read now. So if you're used to that setting in other games, where the train goes into the station automatically reverses. So far, that's not in the plans for Sweet Transit. Now, for the stations, and I have a bunch of pictures of those that we'll kind of scroll through here. There are generally two types of them in Sweet Transit: one-way stations and two-way stations. Pretty self-explanatory. I believe this image shows both types. Now, in the center, we can see the warehouse building here. I've been talking about that all episode here, or this whole video. And then just above and to the left of the warehouse is a station building. And that just happens to be named warehouse. That's a little misleading, but I believe that's a train station building here where I've got the highlight. And then above and to the left of that is what I believe is the one-way train station stop. So, and then down to the left, down and to the left, I should say, of the warehouse is what I believe to be the two-way train station stop, because the you kind of come into that station and come out. So those tracks go in two directions. Now, I could have that wrong, but I believe that this image is showing the two station types. You can see that here. Now, here's a picture of a couple of stations, each next to a sawmill building. And then here's another cool picture with two stations. If you look close, the train near the station at the bottom left of the screen appears to be carrying passengers. Those look like passenger cars to me, while the four trains to the right of the image all appear to be hauling materials. So it looks like this big station is, handling passengers and different products and supplying the village here. So all very cool. And here's a few more images. I'll just let these scroll through. Okay, then just one last thing to show you, then we'll wrap up this preview. The developer mentions that he wants to make the building and removal of tracks as easy as possible. That's a huge complaint in other transit games or railroad games. It's a common source of pain, is how easy it is to build the tracks. So I've got some footage of that. I slowed it down a little bit from the original because the original is just super duper fast. So you can kind of see that here, and there's not a whole lot to show, but you can kind of see them laying down some tracks and ripping some tracks up. And again, the point here is just that he's trying to make that as easy as possible and frustration free. All right, and that does it. That's my early preview of Sweet Transit. If you like this video, then you know what to do. Also, if you like learning about upcoming games just like Sweet Transit, then I highly, highly, highly suggest you check out my first look playlist. So I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. It's loaded with great games just like Sweet Transit, and I add more to that playlist pretty often, almost weekly. So check it out. I bet you'll find several more games you like in that playlist. Also, as a reminder, Sweet Transit is not yet available to play. This is an early preview video. And I love doing these. They can be frustrating because you can't play, but I love sharing this information with you. I research a ton of games. So yes, Sweet Transit not yet available to play as I post this video. What you see is subject to change. It's very early as I record this, and I haven't played it myself yet. But again, you can wishlist and follow it in Steam, just like I've done, to keep track of its development. And again, check out the devlogs posted on the Steam store page. They're very good, very informative, and I think the developer is posting those pretty regularly, maybe every other week. So all that is very cool. And for now, this is Glidercat saying thanks so much for watching. I really, really mean it. I do appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one.